The pregnant widow adopted a stray dog. It dug up something with her ring. This is a true story I need to share, happening in the quiet town of Eldridge, Ohio, during a spring that felt haunted rather than hopeful. Before I continue this true supernatural account, subscribe to hear the full story that forever changed my understanding of life after death. The moment a glimmering object caught my eye beneath the dog's paws, I knew this ring was tied to something beyond the mundane. Shadows loomed at the edge of my vision, whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. The air turned thick with an unnatural chill as I felt an invisible hand brush against my skin, sending a wave of dread through me, filled with the smell of decay that clung to the earth where the dog dug. A bitter, metallic taste flooded my mouth, hinting at the danger lurking beneath the surface of my life as a widow, preparing for my child alone. Memories of my husband's last moments were vivid, his face flashing before me as if he were still here, guiding me through this strange, overwhelming experience. I couldn't shake the sense of impending doom that fueled the shadows lurking just out of sight. Every creak of the old house echoed through the stillness of the night, each whisper of the wind clawing at my already frayed nerves. I questioned everything, the child's laughter dissolving into the quiet, the dog's sudden fixation on that one spot in the yard, as if it were prying open a door I was not meant to unlock. The deeper the dog dug, the heavier my heart felt with the weight of loss and fear. Paralyzed by the duality of hope for a new beginning and dread of what the past might still hold, I remained rooted to the spot. What I felt then was pure dread, my instincts screaming that something was not right. With each passing second, the buried memories clawed their way to the surface, merging with the chill of the spring air to form a suffocating blanket of dread. As I lay awake at night, haunted by the mark of death left behind by my husband's passing, I recalled the old family tales of spirits trying to communicate through unsettling signs. My grandmother had been a firm believer in omens and messages from beyond, insisting that in our lineage, women would receive warnings from the deceased in the form of unusual occurrences. If you've ever longed for safety while simultaneously feeling watched, you understand the chill that danced down my spine when the dog barked at the empty space beside me, a warning bell in the stillness of the night. The next morning brought no relief. My gut twisted in knots as I prepared to face the unknown that awaited me in the backyard. With shaking hands, I decided to confront whatever was buried under the surface, whatever had drawn this stray dog to that spot. Stumbling over the fear that held me paralyzed, I stepped into the daylight, my resolve hardening as I willed myself to be brave. "What do you want from me?" I called into the open air, my voice quivering but resolute. To my astonishment, the shadows shifted almost imperceptibly, darkening, interacting with an unseen force, and I felt the air crackle with potential energy. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the top of the fence, refusing to let the fear paralyze me further. Just then, the dog renewed its digging, its urgent paws unearthing something glimmering beneath the earth. As it revealed the prize, an explosive realization hit me like a freight train. The ring, weathered with age but shimmering as though it possessed a heartbeat of its own, might be a key to unlocking the mysteries of my home, of my life. My breath caught. This unearthing was no accident. It was deliberate. Who or what was sending messages from beyond? My heart raced as I reached down, the cool metal feeling both ominous and strangely comforting against my palm. Suddenly, the world around me felt heavy, and the air thickened with anticipation. Time seemed to slow as I held the ring, a tangible relic that tied me to something far greater than myself. The shadows grew more pronounced, as if waiting for my next move, urging me to understand. Each beat of my heart resonated with the silent plea embedded within the gleaming gold. What did it want from me? The unease continued to coil in the pit of my stomach, twisting my intuition tighter. I realized then that I needed answers, clarity. I couldn't navigate this unknown without help. A determined spark ignited within me, pushing me to understand not just the ring, but the shadows that swirled around my home, whispering secrets of the past. I made my decision then. The burden of the unknown must be unveiled, and the truth, however terrifying, sought to reveal itself. The journey had begun, and what I uncovered might change everything. I stepped back from the haunting shadows lurking at the edge of my vision, cradling the ring close to my chest as if it were a lifeline. The dog pawed eagerly at the earth, a mix of loyalty and urgency evident in its every movement, urging me to dig deeper, to face what lay hidden. An uneasy truce hung between the dog and me, a silent understanding that we were both drawn into the web of the unknown above a ground filled with secrets. After taking a moment to compose myself, I turned toward the house, the ring trembling against my heart. My mind swirled with questions that begged for answers. What was the history behind this object? Whose life was intertwined with mine through this piece of jewelry? I needed clarity. The dog's eyes sparkled with intelligence, as if it sensed the urgency of the moment. Together, we would uncover the truth. The town of Eldridge was known for its quaint streets lined with old trees. But as I passed by the familiar haunts of my life, places that once felt warm with memories, they took on a different ambiance, almost ethereal with shadows. Rumors of old hauntings flitted through my mind, carried on the whispers of neighbors and friends who lived here longer than me. I recalled conversations with the elderly, recounting tales of lost souls and restless spirits, murmurs that were always dismissed until now. If I were to seek guidance, I would have to listen to those echoes carefully. I made my way to the local library, a relic that housed generations of stories. Its ancient wood and dim hallways held a wealth of knowledge, just waiting for someone desperate enough to dig through it. The old librarian, Mrs. Whitaker, had seen the world change through her readers' eyes and was known for her vast knowledge of Eldridge's history. I could feel the tendrils of dread tightening around my heart as I approached her desk. The weight of the ring surged against my chest as if sensing my anxiety. "Mrs. Whitaker, I need your help," I breathed, trying to keep my voice steady. The air felt heavy with hidden knowledge as I watched her gaze shift momentarily to my chest. "I found this ring in my yard, and I think it might have something to do with past residents of this town. Do you know anything about a widow who could be connected to it?" Her keen blue eyes widened slightly, and a shiver seemed to run through her at the mention of the ring. "Oh, many stories swirl around regarding lost items," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But a widow, that name carries weight in our history. There was a heartbreaking tale of a woman named Clara who lived in a house not far from here, facing the wrath of a curse after her husband's death. They say her spirit still wanders, seeking peace from the regrets that bound her to this world." As she spoke, I felt a chill descend upon me. The idea of Clara's restless spirit resonated with my own, mirroring my uncertainties about love and loss as I faced impending motherhood alone. I could almost hear whispers urging me to learn more, yet fear threatened to silence them. What was her curse? I managed to ask, every fiber of my being desperate for answers. "She was said to be haunted by shadows," Mrs. Whitaker replied, her eyes clouding with memories. "Shadows that warned her of dangers that lay ahead, unearthing old wounds she couldn't heal. The ring found its way to her finger when she married, a promise turned to ash when tragedy struck. They say she buried the ring in hopes of freeing her spirit, but it became a prison instead. Some say it still binds her." My thoughts raced, connecting the dots between Clara's tragic story and the unearthed ring now weighing in my palm. "What happened to her?" I dared to inquire, unable to shake the feelings that stirred within me. "She faded away," Mrs. Whitaker said finally, her voice trembling. "People began to see her figure at twilight, roaming the streets, a reminder of love lost and grief unshared. No one dared to approach, fearing the curse might cling to them as well. The shadows that surrounded her became warning signs, They say those who pay attention might evade the dangers she could not. A wave of realization washed over me as her words settled into my mind. Clara's story felt like an echo of my own life, filled with hope, loss, and the precarious nature of love and fear. The shadows haunting Clara were now entwined with me, and the ring felt like a beacon in the darkness, shouting, "Understand, confront, learn." "Thank you," I whispered, gratitude stealing my breath. I turned to leave the library, my heart pounding in my chest, racing toward the next step in this unfolding mystery. The knowledge I had unearthed ignited a burning desire to confront what lay beneath the surface of the past, both for Clara and myself. The strands of our stories were woven together by invisible threads, connecting two women separated by time but bound by grief. As I emerged into the mild spring air, I felt the change in the atmosphere, a shift that hinted at the shadows drawing closer, urging me onward. What had once felt terrifying now pushed me toward an unexpected strength, ready to face whatever dark specters would rise to reveal their truths. I sensed that I was not just searching for Clara's answers, but for my own. The shadows of the past were beckoning, and the journey ahead was one I would take. I felt an electric current pulse through the air, deepening my resolve as I realized the truth. This ring was not merely a relic of a widow's sorrow, but a bridge to healing, understanding, and awakening. The moment awaited, a confrontation with the darkness I had feared, but now knew could offer light. As I walked away from the library, the ring's weight felt more significant in my palm, like a hidden treasure holding life-altering secrets. I was no longer just a widow grappling with sorrow. I was stepping into a narrative entwined with Clara's, a narrative full of unanswered questions and mythic shadows. My thoughts raced with possibilities as I made my way home, hoping this was not just a fantastical coincidence, but a crucial link between us, a tether binding my spirit to hers, a confirmation of the unspoken messages that transcended time. Upon arriving home, the backyard seemed different, more alive and charged with energy. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the grass. My senses heightened as I stepped cautiously onto the familiar ground. The dog, now my companion in this mysterious expedition, wagged its tail excitedly as if it too could feel the connection. I took a deep breath, prepared to confront whatever lay hidden beneath my feet. Kneeling beside the spot where the dog had unearthed the ring, an electric pulse coursed through the earth, vibrating in resonance with my own heartbeat. I cleared the area of loose dirt and debris, anxiety twisting my gut as I recalled the stories of Clara's shadows, warning me of approaching dangers. My hands moved instinctively, digging into the soil where the dog had excavated, the ring glimmering nearby like a lighthouse beacon guiding me through the fog. Suddenly, a sharp chill swept over me, penetrating the surface warmth of the spring afternoon. The air crackled, and I felt the weight of unseen eyes upon me, shadows gathering at the periphery of my vision. I froze for a moment, instincts screaming in protest, urging me to run or hide. But I took a deep breath instead, lowering my head as I whispered, "I'm here to listen. I want to understand." As if my plea had summoned an unseen presence, the temperature dipped further and the shadows thickened. It was as if the past, unrelenting, echoed back to me. The dog barked and growled at the encroaching darkness, its fur ruffled, nostrils flaring. "Calm down, boy," I murmured, forcing my trembling hands to keep digging. Within moments, I unearthed something, a small, tattered fabric that caught my breath. As I pulled the cloth free, it felt ancient, weathered, and oddly warm against my skin, despite the chill. Clenching the fabric in my fist, I could make out a delicate pattern, a family crest intertwined with roses, and I felt a sense of familiarity wash over me. A connection not to the object, but to the spirit behind it. It held Clara's essence, a whispering reminder of her story and the heaviness of her grief. "Clara, if you're here, please show me what you need," I begged softly, my eyes fixed on the fabric. The shadows swirled, darkening deeper around me, thick and consuming, forming into a pulsating energy that felt alive. An icy breeze ruffled my hair, and suddenly a figure flickered into view, a haze of smoke and darkness that began to coalesce into a more recognizable shape. My heart raced with terror and awe as the figure, ethereal yet hauntingly familiar, took on features that mirrored mine, a fleeting glimpse of a woman caught between worlds. It was Clara. "Help me," she mouthed, the words a soft whisper carried on the wind. The panic that gripped me was palpable, but I held my ground, finding the resolute strength that had guided me through so much already. "What do you need me to do?" I cried out, desperation clawing at my throat. With each word, Clara grew clearer, the shadows twisting until I could see the sorrow etched on her face, the pain of betrayal and heartache that echoed my plight. The boundaries between her world and mine felt almost non-existent, a thin veil holding our experiences apart. Tears sprang to my eyes as empathy flooded my heart, realizing that we were not dissimilar at all, both trapped in our grief, yet yearning to connect. "Find peace," she urged silently, movements more intense now, reaching toward the ring and the abandoned fabric. "Return it. Set us free." With that final, silent plea imprinted in my heart, Clara's form began to fade, blending back into the shadows that wove through the trees, disappearing like morning mist. "Wait!" I shouted, scrambling to my feet, desperately trying to hold on to the moment. But there was nothing left, just the pulse of the earth beneath me and my racing heart competing against the fading sunlight. The shadows pulled back slightly, lingering around me but now feeling less sinister. Instead, they felt protective, heartening even, reminding me of Clara's message. I had to return what was lost, but to whom? My intuition pushed me to explore this further, realizing that Clara's plea was not a request for vengeance or closure, but a release, the path toward healing through recognition and forgiveness. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, bathing the world in twilight hues as I cradled the tattered fabric and the ring tightly in my hands. The journey ahead was becoming more profound with each clue. Clara had entrusted me with her story, and now it was time to pass it on. I could still feel the weight of the shadows, but rather than fear, there was a sense of purpose. They were guiding me into the unknown, unraveling the threads of life and loss. As I retreated into the house, I felt the boundaries shifting. The ringing in my ears subsided, replaced by a softer, comforting energy. I was no longer just a widow clinging to remnants of the past. Now I was Clara's voice, and our destinies were entwined, pushing me to break the cycle of grief. "I promise," I whispered to the shadows, "I will find peace for both of us." What lay ahead would challenge me, but I was resolute, prepared to venture into the shadows to forge a new chapter, the healing of a bond that transcended time and sorrow. The night felt endless, and sleep eluded me as the shadows lingered in my mind, echoing Clara's plea. The ring glowed softly on my nightstand, a reminder of the connection I had forged with her spirit. I wasn't just a widow anymore. I was now an unwitting guardian of Clara's story, tasked with returning her lost artifacts. At dawn, the weight of my purpose pulled me from bed. I resolved to find out more about Clara's life, to understand the tether that bound us, and uncover the truth behind the tragedy that had turned her into a figure of whispers. The library would be my first destination. As I entered, the familiar scent of old books greeted me. "Mrs. Whitaker smiled knowingly as I approached. "Back again? What's on your mind today?" "I need to know more about Clara," I replied, urgency in my voice. "I found a ring and a fabric in my yard. They belong to her, and I believe they hold the key to understanding her past." Her expression shifted, and she nodded thoughtfully. "Let's see what we can uncover. Clara's tale seems to resonate with you." Together, we sifted through dusty archives and stacks of old newspapers. Among articles detailing the town's history, we came across one titled, "Local Widow's Grief Feared by Neighbors." The words struck me like a cold wind, describing how Clara was believed to summon dark forces through her sorrow, creating shadows that kept people at bay. "Fear can breed misunderstanding," I murmured, realizing Clara's pain had been compounded by isolation. People didn't understand her. Mrs. Whitaker nodded. "Our town has always had its share of superstitions. Clara bore the brunt of them, but you seem determined to change that." The article detailed Clara's husband's tragic death, a mining accident that left her stranded in grief and society's judgment. She had faded into a recluse, the sorrow morphing into unfounded suspicion from those around her. I felt Clara's presence with me, her story intertwining with mine, illuminating the bridge that connected us. After hours of research, I felt a surge of responsibility. Clara's shadows were not just warnings, they were remnants of a life filled with love and tragedy that needed to be acknowledged. To set her spirit free, I had to confront the past, not just for Clara, but for myself. "Will you help me share Clara's story with the community?" I asked Mrs. Whitaker, determination anchoring my plea. "We need to bring her memory back to light." "Absolutely," she replied, her voice strong and encouraging. "It's time for the truth to be heard." With that resolve, I began compiling Clara's history, the articles, the anecdotes from those who remembered her, and the artifacts I had uncovered. Each piece of her past felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders, weaving a narrative that transcended the shadows of misunderstanding. As I prepared for the gathering I envisioned, I was filled with a blend of excitement and trepidation. I wanted to reclaim Clara's dignity, allowing her story to transcend the shadows. The day of the event arrived, and the community center buzzed with energy. People trickled in, many wearing expressions of curiosity and apprehension. As I stood in front of the audience, holding the ring and the fabric, I spoke of Clara's life, the heartbreak, and the stories lost among the shadows. The room fell silent, absorbing every word. "Fear can silence us," I continued, my voice steady. "But understanding and compassion can bridge divides. Clara's grief created shadows that people feared, but in truth, those shadows were simply a part of her story, a story that deserves to be told." As I shared Clara's plea to find peace, I noticed the audience's expressions softening, transforming from skepticism to empathy. There was a collective realization. The hurt that bound Clara's spirit could be healed by acknowledging her truth. When I finished, the room erupted in applause, not just for Clara's story, but for the courage to confront the shadows that loom over us all. Clara's legacy became a testament to resilience and healing, connecting us through our shared humanity. By the end of the gathering, several attendees approached me, thanking me for sharing Clara's memory, a palpable shift hanging in the air. The shadows that had once haunted her now felt lighter, less oppressive. As I stepped outside into the cool evening air, I felt Clara's presence wrap around me like a comforting embrace. The shadows no longer felt like suffocating restrictions, but like guiding forces, reminders that we all have parts of ourselves that seek acknowledgement and love. In that moment, I understood my purpose. I was not merely a vessel for Clara's story. I was a part of this continuum, linking the past to the present, ensuring that no one's truth slipped into the cavernous silence again. I looked up at the starry sky, grateful for Clara's guidance. With renewed strength, I whispered, "I will continue to share your story, Clara. May your spirit finally find peace." And as I walked toward my home, I knew that our bond had transformed not just our lives, but the very fabric of the community, a healing that started with the courage to confront the shadows together. In the days following the gathering, a lightness replaced the heaviness that had long draped over me. Clara's story had sparked something beautiful within our community. People began sharing their own tales of grief and hope, inspired by the courage that had unearthed Clara's narrative. It felt as if the town was awakening, shaking off the dust of silence while embracing the healing power of connection. One afternoon, I received a surprise visit from Mrs. Whitaker, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I have fantastic news," she said, almost breathless. "I've been in touch with the Historical Society about Clara. It turns out there's more to her story we need to explore." I leaned in, my heart racing at the thought of uncovering more. "What have you found?" "There are old letters and diary entries. They're not available to the public, but the archivist has agreed to let us examine them," she explained. "If we arrive at the archive early tomorrow, we might discover pieces of Clara's life that could complete our understanding." "Let's go," I replied, enthusiasm bubbling to the surface. We made plans to meet early the next morning, and I could hardly sleep that night, anticipation coursing through me as I imagined what secrets those letters might hold. When dawn broke, I felt like a child on Christmas morning. Mrs. Whitaker and I met outside the Historical Society, where the sun cast warm beams into the crisp air. Entering the building, I was met with the comforting scent of aged paper and stories waiting to be unveiled. The archivist led us to a back room filled with boxes labeled with names of families, including the Thalar family. My hands trembled as I opened one of the boxes, revealing fragile letters bound together with ribbons, their edges frayed by time. "Here we go," I whispered. My heart raced as we paused to read one of the letters, Clara's handwriting a clear reflection of her spirit. The love between her and her husband flowed through the words, but with it came a haunting undercurrent. "I will always be with you, even in the shadows," one letter concluded, sending shivers down my spine. Clara's love story was profound, but it's layered with so much heartache, I said, sadness filling my voice. It's almost as if the shadows were a part of their bond. Mrs. Whitaker nodded solemnly. "We can use this understanding to honor her legacy." Digging deeper, I unearthed a small, leather-bound diary at the bottom of the box. With trembling hands, I opened it. The last entries were particularly striking, revealing Clara's struggles as she wrestled with her grief. She spoke of moments of profound love intertwined with the pain of loss, reflecting how love can sometimes go hand in hand with heartache. "The shadows are not to be feared," she wrote. "They are reminders of our love and the bonds that transcend even death. I will find peace, and I hope you do too." Tears filled my eyes. Clara had faced her darkness not with defeat, but with fierce love, and this was a truth that deserved to be shared. "We need to tell the community about this," I exclaimed, my determination growing. Clara's story is not just one of sorrow, it's one of enduring love and hope. "Exactly," Mrs. Whitaker replied, her eyes lighting up. "Let's plan an event to unveil these findings and honor Clara." "It's time," her voice was fully heard. With excitement coursing through us, we organized an event aimed at celebrating Clara's life. We invited the community to attend, sharing her letters and diary entries along with our reflections. We intended to create a space where everyone could share their grief and their own stories of love. As the day of the event arrived, I felt a potent mix of nerves and anticipation. The community center buzzed with energy, and together we filled the room with warmth and connection. As I stood before the crowd, holding Clara's diary, I could feel her spirit beside me, urging me to share her truth. "Tonight, we honor Clara Thalar," I began, my voice ringing clear. "Her story has been shrouded in shadow for too long, clouded by fear and misunderstanding. But together, we will shed light on her legacy of love and redemption." The room hushed as I read excerpts from her letters, sharing her love story and her tumultuous journey through grief. People listened intently, their expressions shifting from curiosity to empathy. Clara's vulnerability resonated deeply, and as I read her final thoughts, I could feel an awakening among the audience. Clara reminds us that even in darkness, love endures. It's this love that connects us, and it's okay to find solace in shared experiences, I said, looking out at the sea of faces. We are all intertwined in this fabric of grief and healing. As I concluded, applause erupted, filling the room with a tangible energy that spoke of solidarity and understanding. Afterward, people approached me, spilling their own stories of love and loss, sharing memories and vulnerability they had long kept hidden. Walking home that evening, I felt lighter than I had in years. Clara's spirit enveloped me in a soothing embrace as I acknowledged that our stories were now linked. The shadows that had once oppressed her were now threads of light, weaving our lives together. "Thank you for letting me share your truth," I whispered into the night. Clara had transformed not only her own narrative, but also the hearts of those within our community. In the journey to find peace, we had discovered the strength found in connection, courage that allowed love to shine even in the darkest corners. Together, we would continue transforming shadows into stories worth sharing. The days that followed the gathering glimmered with newfound promise. Clara's legacy had ignited a fire in our community, and I felt, for the first time in a long while, a collective spirit rising from the ashes of silence. Conversations about grief and healing spilled into local coffee shops and corners of our town, and the shadows that once loomed over Clara were shifting into something that felt almost sacred. One brisk afternoon, as I stood in our small park watching children play, I was approached by Mr. Thompson, an elder who had lived in the town for decades. "You've done something remarkable, dear," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "No one has spoken Clara's name like that in years. I've wanted to tell her story, but fear kept me quiet, just like everyone else." I felt a swell of hope. "What do you remember about her?" I asked, inviting him to share. "We were all afraid of what we didn't understand," he said, shaking his head. "But Clara was a good woman. I recall the laughter that used to spill from her home before the tragedy. It's time we remembered the whole woman, not just the ghost of her sorrow." As we talked, more people began to gather, their faces sparking with remembrance. Stories poured forth, weaving together memories of Clara before her husband's death, her laughter that echoed in the streets, her way of bringing life and joy to gatherings. These stories seemed to turn the air electric, and I realized we were on the brink of something transformative, a community's reclamation of love in the face of loss. Fueled by these revelations, I organized a roundtable gathering at the community center. I wanted to bring these memories together so we could celebrate Clara's life as a united front, not just in sorrow, but in the joy she had once brought to all of us. The buzz around town ignited excitement, and when the day arrived, the center was filled with familiar faces, some I hadn't seen in years. As I stepped up to address the crowd, I felt the weight of Clara's spirit beside me, urging me forward. "Thank you, everyone, for coming together today," I began, my heart swelling with gratitude. "We're here to honor Clara not just as a woman who suffered, but as a vibrant individual who touched our lives deeply. Let's share our memories, our stories of love, and ignite a spirit of joy in her name." One by one, people began to share, memories unfolding like petals in a blooming flower. Mrs. Jenkins spoke of Clara's delicious baking, sharing how her pies were the highlight of every town function. She would always say, "Life's too short for a small slice," she laughed, tears shimmering in her eyes. Others shared moments of laughter, friendship, and the warmth that Clara used to shine upon the community. By the end of the day, laughter intertwined with the tears of joy. Clara was living again in our stories. When it came time for me to speak, I welcomed the spirit she had ignited within the room and poured my heart out. "I can feel Clara's love wrapping around all of us, reminding us that connection is what makes us whole," I said, my voice steady despite the emotion swelling inside me. "Let's let her laughter ring in our hearts as we go forward, knowing we can reclaim the light even from the darkest shadows." As the gathering ended, people lingered, reluctant to leave the warmth of shared comfort. We exchanged hugs and promises to continue sharing Clara's story and maintaining the spirit of connection that had bound us together that day. Later that evening, as I walked home under the twinkling stars, I felt a shift, a renewed responsibility to carry Clara's legacy. The whispers of her past were now intertwined with my own, and I felt scheduled shifts of purpose settling like an old quilt around my shoulders. The following week, with Clara's stories resonating through the community, an idea struck me: a memorial garden dedicated to her, a sanctuary where stories could continue to blossom. I proposed it to a local committee, and to my delight, they embraced the idea with open arms. As individuals began donating time, plants, and resources, I could see Clara's legacy taking physical form, a space of love, connection, and remembrance. As the garden began to take shape, I encouraged people to write their memories of Clara and place them in a memory box, which we would bury under a central tree. This box would be a tangible marker of shared stories, a promise to keep Clara's spirit alive. On the day of the burial, the sun shone brightly as people gathered, some holding hands, others wearing smiles that reflected the heart of the community we were crafting. With each memory placed in the box, Clara's laughter felt more present than ever. With the box securely buried, I gathered everyone under the newly planted tree, its branches just beginning to unfurl. This garden will be our space to celebrate life, where Clara's essence can grow and nurture us in our journeys through joy and sorrow. Here, we can return to heal, to remember, and most importantly, to laugh in her honor. As we shared laughter and declared our intentions for the garden, I sensed Clara's spirit smiling among us, a kind of peace settling over the crowd. We were not just commemorating the past, we were nurturing a future of love and connection, roots entwined deep in the soil, blossoms reaching toward the sky. With Clara's memory woven into the fabric of our lives, it became clear that her life had transformed us all. Those shadows that once held her hostage had now become threads of light, guiding us forward on a path of healing, acceptance, and profound connection. Together, we were rewriting our narratives, one story at a time. As the weeks turned into months, the memorial garden flourished under the watchful care of our community. It quickly became a sacred space where laughter mingled with whispers of memory, where we could gather in celebration and solace. The air was fragrant with blooming flowers, a riot of colors that symbolized the vibrancy Clara had brought to our lives. Each blossom, every rustling leaf, seemed to echo with the stories shared and the memories cherished. I found myself visiting the garden often, feeling a magnetic pull toward its gentle embrace. It had become a refuge for me, a place to reflect on Clara's life and the lessons we learned from her journey. Thoughts of her resilience filled my heart, and I would often sit beneath the tree where we buried the memory box, imagining her laughter ringing through the air. One sunny afternoon, I decided to host a storytelling weekend in the garden, inviting everyone to come forth with their tales. "Let's gather, just like Clara would have wanted," I announced through various community platforms. "Bring your voices, your hearts, and your memories to share." The response was overwhelming. Families came with their children, elderly couples who had known Clara since her childhood, and newcomers who had only recently formed connections within our community. The garden was alive with laughter, anticipation, and the shared love that Clara had forged among us. As people arrived, blankets were spread across the grass, and the atmosphere was filled with joy. I had prepared a small stage adorned with wildflowers for people to take turns sharing their stories. My heart raced with excitement as I watched familiar faces, hoping the space would spark conversations, stitches of connection weaving through the tapestry of our day. As the first speaker stepped onto the mini stage, I noticed Clara's spirit seemed to hum in the air around us. It was a young girl, the daughter of a dear friend who bravely approached the microphone. "I want to tell you about my favorite memory of Clara," she said, her voice quivering but determined. She recounted a delightful story of Clara baking cookies and sharing laughter, her eyes sparkling with remembrance. As she spoke, I could almost visualize Clara's warm smile, her presence palpable in the garden's embrace. One by one, people shared their cherished memories, laughter weaving through nostalgia. Mr. Thompson spoke of the time Clara rallied the neighbors to organize a surprise birthday party for him. We had balloons everywhere, and she even baked a cake that almost toppled due to its towering candles, he chuckled. Each person carried their piece of Clara with them, and as their stories spilled forth, I realized Clara had gathered a family of spirits within us, each tale a testament to her legacy. As dusk began to fall, the garden transformed under a canopy of stars, twinkling like pinpricks in the deepening indigo sky. I took my turn to speak, my heart full to bursting from the outpouring of love and connection throughout the day. Thank you to everyone for sharing these beautiful stories of Clara, I began, my voice steady yet emotional. She may not be here physically, but her spirit lives on through each of us, through the love we share and the memories we keep alive. Today, we've gathered not to simply remember the shadows, but to celebrate her light. Applause erupted, but it was more than that. It was a connection, a celebration of healing and acceptance. I could see Clara's spirit dancing through the crowd, brightening the hearts of those gathered. In that moment, we were not just a community. We were an extension of Clara's own loving embrace. As people began to wind down for the evening, laughter turned into soft conversations filling the warm night air. A woman approached me, a newcomer who had moved to the town only a few months prior. I didn't know Clara, but hearing everyone talk about her made me feel like I did. "You've created something wonderful here," she said, a tear glistening in her eye. I smiled at her, my heart full of gratitude. This was Clara's gift to us all. We are merely the caretakers of her legacy. You are welcome in our community, and I hope you find a place here. As she walked away, I felt a wave of warmth flood through me. The garden was thriving, not just as a location, but as a sanctuary, a safeguard for our shared experiences. The stories we had shared were melded beautifully into the earth. The memory box we buried stood as a foundation, roots intertwining with our own lives. As the event concluded, couples held hands, children played, and the sound of soft laughter lingered in my ears. I took a moment to sit on the grass beneath the tree, feeling the cool earth beneath me. Closing my eyes, I breathed in the scents of flowers and the whispers of the leaves. It was then I realized that the garden was growing beyond our shared memories. It had transformed into a living testament of hope, healing, and the strength found in vulnerability. People began to return not only to remember Clara, but to share the burdens of their hearts, reaping the comfort of friendship and connection in the garden's embrace. Months continued to pass, and every time I wandered into the garden, it blossomed again, reflecting the ever-growing love and strength of our community. I envisaged it becoming a focal point for gatherings, a beacon guiding us through our darkness, lovingly reminding us that we were never alone. Clara had always believed in the power of stories, and as I looked around at the vibrant blooms of the garden, I understood we were truly rewriting our narratives in the light of understanding and compassion. Together, we would continue sharing, healing, and growing, each story adding depth and color to this beautiful tapestry of love. One warm afternoon, as I made my habitual stroll through the garden, I sensed a slight shift in the air. It felt charged with an energy that was both exciting and unfamiliar. The blossoms seemed to sway in a rhythm all their own, as if the very essence of Clara was alive within them, whispering secrets of love and connection. It was then I spotted a group gathered at the far side of the garden, their hushed voices rising above the rustle of leaves. Curious, I approached them, sharing smiles and nods as I recognized community members from past gatherings. They stood around a new addition to the garden, a beautifully crafted wooden bench engraved with the words, In memory of Clara, a place for stories and healing. Moved by the gesture, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. "Who brought this here?" I asked, my eyes searching the crowd for answers. "It was a surprise from all of us," Mrs. Whitaker chimed in with a bright smile, her eyes twinkling. "We wanted to create a special place for people to come and sit, reflect, and remember. Clara deserves to be honored in a way that invites all of us to tell our stories." I was overwhelmed by the depth of love and appreciation radiating from the group. "This is beautiful," I said, my voice catching in my throat. "Thank you for carrying forward Clara's legacy so thoughtfully." As we all settled onto the bench together, I began to share a new idea that had been brewing in my mind. What if we host regular storytelling sessions here? A chance for anyone to come, share their memories, and even bring along their own stories of love and loss. We can create a space where everyone feels seen and heard, just like Clara did for so many. The group exchanged enthusiastic nods, the warmth of support evident in their expressions. "We should kick it off next month," someone suggested, excitement dancing through the air. "What better way to celebrate Clara's birthday?" "Yes," I agreed wholeheartedly. "This will be a day to honor her life, not just with memories, but by celebrating our own. Let's make it a community event, bring food, share stories, and reflect on the journey we've taken together." As the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the garden, laughter erupted around us as ideas flew freely. Personal touches, foods Clara loved, songs she favored, each suggestion added another brushstroke to this beautiful canvas we were creating. That day, the garden pulsated with love, reverberating with Clara's spirit. Over the weeks leading up to the event, the garden became alive with preparation. Families dedicated time to tend to the flowers, ensuring their beauty would match the spirit of celebration. Children created colorful decorations, displaying their artwork among the blooms. Every day felt like a joyful tribute, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. When Clara's birthday arrived, the garden transformed into a vibrant festival. Strings of lights crisscrossed through the branches, flowers burst in full bloom, and tables overflowed with food, laughter, and stories waiting to be shared. As the crowd gathered, I felt a swell of emotion. Clara would have loved this. I looked out at the sea of familiar faces, their energy radiating warmth. "Today we celebrate Clara, but also each other," I announced, my voice ringing through the garden. "Let's share our stories, the ones that connect us, heal us, and remind us that we are never truly alone." Throughout the day, people stepped forward to share their tales, their voices weaving a tapestry of love through Clara's essence. Each story ignited emotions, some painful yet liberating, and I could feel the garden absorbing every word. As twilight descended and the first stars began to twinkle like diamonds in the sky, the air filled with warmth, laughter, and a collective spirit that echoed Clara's joy. I stood at the foot of the bench, feeling her presence enveloping me as I shared my own story about how she had changed my life and helped me uncover strengths I never knew I had. This garden is not just a place to remember. It is a living testament to love, I said softly, letting my words resonate. Through our stories, Clara's spirit lives on, shaping our hearts and guiding our pathways. We too become voices for healing. As the gathering continued long into the evening, I felt deep gratitude wash over me, a powerful acknowledgement that Clara's legacy had transformed our town, our lives, and each other. With every shared moment, the connection among us deepened, creating not just a garden rich with blossoms, but a vibrant community flourishing with empathy, strength, and love. In honoring Clara, we had woven our stories into an enduring narrative, forever linked by the beauty of sharing, healing, and togetherness. As the festival began to wind down and the last echoes of laughter faded into the night, I soaked in the serenity of the garden. Lanterns flickered softly, illuminating the faces of friends and neighbors, while the air buzzed with warmth and connection. I took a moment to bask in the joy of it all. Clara's spirit felt alive within the blooms that surrounded us. Just then, I noticed a new face standing at the garden's entrance. A young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, appeared hesitant as she surveyed the scene. I could see curiosity mingling with longing in her eyes. "Hi there," I called out, approaching her with a welcoming smile. "Welcome. Did you come for Clara's birthday celebration?" She smiled shyly. "I'm Lena. I just moved here a few weeks ago. I didn't know about the gathering until I saw the lights and heard the laughter." "Lena, I'm so glad you found us." I gestured for her to join me. "This garden has become a sanctuary for our community where we share stories and celebrate Clara's spirit. You're welcome here." I watched as she slowly began to relax, basking in the warmth of our community. As we wandered through the garden together, I introduced her to familiar faces. As laughter and conversation flowed, I could see her smile widening. She'd quickly become wrapped in the web of our shared stories and memories. "I never had a place like this before," she confessed, her voice just above a whisper. "I felt so alone since moving here." "Don't worry, you're not alone anymore," I replied. "We all share stories. This garden is a testament to connection and healing. You'll find your place with us." Touched by my words, her eyes glistened with gratitude. "Thank you. I've been looking for a community like this." Encouraged, I invited her to come to our future gatherings, suggesting that she could share her experiences and join our stories. Clara's legacy is alive in each of us. It's time you became part of that. Over the following weeks, the garden continued to thrive as a place of solace for us all. New faces joined our gatherings frequently. Lena became a crucial part of our community, attending every event and sharing her own anecdotes. The bonds among us strengthened with every story exchanged, beautifully intertwining in a tapestry of healing and love. One evening, while planning our next storytelling session, an idea sparked within me. "What if we create programs to help others in the community?" I suggested, excitement bubbling within. We could invite schools, organize workshops on grief and connection, and extend our hands to those still struggling in silence. People nodded with enthusiasm, murmurs of support filling the air. "Let's do it," Lena chimed in, her voice filled with conviction. "We can spread Clara's message and bring healing to others." As we laid out plans, I felt Clara's spirit wrapping around us, a warm embrace reminding us we were collectively creating something beautiful. Our community was ready to flourish and grow, bound together by friendship and the healing power of shared experience. On the evening of our next gathering, I stood beneath the twinkling stars, reflecting on how far we had come. The garden had transformed not just in appearance, but in spirit, becoming a living symbol of hope for all who entered. Tonight, we celebrate our growth as a community, I proclaimed, looking around at the faces of friends old and new. Let's continue to share our stories and embrace the connections we've made. The shared laughter and camaraderie echoed through the night, illuminating the path for others who craved connection. In that moment, I realized Clara had not only brought us together, but had instilled in us the courage to open our hearts. Together, we could create a sanctuary not just for ourselves, but for those still searching for a place to belong. Clara's legacy, rooted in love and connection, would continue to spread beyond the garden, nurturing growth in those who needed it most. As our stories flowed through the garden, I felt deep gratitude well up within me, knowing we were not only honoring Clara, but also fostering an enduring community of empathy and healing, a living testament to the love she had inspired in all of us. As the weeks turned into months, the garden blossomed into much more than just a collection of flowers. It became a thriving hub of community and hope. Our storytelling sessions began to attract not only our steadfast members, but also new faces seeking connection amid the challenges life had thrown their way. I often found myself watching in awe as neighbors shared their stories, each tale like a unique flower unfolding with its own hue and fragrance. From deeply personal accounts of loss to joyful celebrations of life's milestones, every story added a new layer to the rich tapestry of our community. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves shifted into brilliant shades of orange and gold, we set up for a special event, our first community workshop titled Healing Through Stories. The excitement in the air was palpable. Laughter filled the garden as we arranged seating and set out refreshments. With Clara's spirit guiding us, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun dipped low, casting a warm golden light over the gathering, I welcomed everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight, ready to share and listen. Together, we're cultivating a garden of stories where healing can flourish. A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the group. I could see eager faces, some familiar, others a bit hesitant, yet drawn to the warmth of our community. Lena stood beside me, her presence a steady anchor. Tonight, we'll explore the power of our experiences and dive into the healing that comes through storytelling. We encourage everyone to share, but remember, you can also simply listen. As the evening unfolded, we broke into smaller groups, allowing each person to find their voice in a more intimate setting. I listened with rapt attention as people shared. There was a mother recounting the memory of her child lost far too soon, a young man sharing his struggles with mental health, and an elderly couple discussing love that had endured through decades of hardship. With every story, there was a palpable synergy, a recognition that we were not alone in our struggles. Tears flowed freely, but so did laughter, and I marveled at how, together, we transformed grief into the seeds of healing. Each word spoken added nourishment to the garden we had planted, intertwining our lives. As the workshop progressed into storytelling games and reflective exercises, I noticed Lena emerging as a natural leader. With her enthusiasm and warm presence, she encouraged others to share their stories and helped facilitate discussions, her spirit igniting a spark in those around her. "Can you feel that?" she asked during a pause in the storytelling. "It's like we're creating a powerful current, binding us together through our experiences." Nods of agreement echoed across the circle, affirming her words. Each participant had the opportunity to leave a note, an intention, a feeling, or a story fragment on a large piece of fabric set up on an easel. As notes filled the fabric, I felt like we were weaving a communal quilt of memories and emotion, a tangible representation of our journey together. By the end of the evening, I stood before the fabric filled with handwritten notes and heartful expressions. "This is our strength," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "We are weaving connections, not just through our stories, but through our hearts. Together, we're cultivating something beautiful." People began to gather around the fabric, reading what others had shared, connecting through honesty and vulnerability. It was evident that the sanctuary we had built was becoming a lifeline for many, and I couldn't help but feel Clara's spirit radiating through this transformation. After the workshop, a group of participants lingered, energized by the experience. "What's next?" one newcomer asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "How can we keep this going?" A surge of inspiration rushed through me, igniting a vision not only for more workshops, but for a regular community gathering that focused on collective healing through creativity, art, storytelling, music. "Let's form a committee to organize monthly events and reach out to others in need," I proposed. "There are so many who could benefit from what we've created here." The response was immediate. Nods and murmurs of agreement bounced between us. Lena stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "I can help with outreach and planning. Let's spread our message far and wide, show others that they don't have to share their burdens alone." With newfound energy, we began to make plans, brainstorming ideas for future gatherings that would cater to all ages. Several volunteers signed up immediately, willing to contribute their time and talents to help ensure our community kept blooming. As I left the garden that night, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for what we had built together in Clara's memory. The garden was no longer just a sanctuary. It had become a vibrant beacon, inviting others to join us on this journey of healing, resilience, and shared humanity. I realized in that moment that Clara's dream was alive and flourishing. In every shared story, every smile, and every connection made. And with each passing day, we would continue to nurture this garden, growing together as one, a true testament to love, friendship, and the indomitable spirit of community.